W5FC. Ham Fixin's Net, first and third Monday, 7 p.m., W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. My name is Brenda, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time using the pro sign break break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to W5FC.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and structured in several parts. 1. General announcements. 2. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. 3. National Space Society events. 4. Discussion topic of the evening. 5. What's up? 6. Space exploration and space history. 7. Constellation of the week. 8. Space launches of the week. 9. Recent astronomical discoveries. And 10. Visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. 11. Astronomical Q&A and 12. 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So let's start with low power and short time check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from this evening. Okay, we'll go for general check-ins. The same thing, call sign, location, and call sign, name, and your location. Please come now.
This is November 5 Bravo Bravo, Bill in Irving.
This is Kilo India 5, Papa Golf Mike, Travis in Garland.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Kilo India 5, uniform,
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville.
This is Alpha Golf 9er, Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas, AG9SG.
This is Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Sierra Juliet, David in East Dallas.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite, Planet Earth.
All right, let's pick those up. We have November 5, Bravo Bravo, Bill. KI5, PGM, Travis. KF5, ZBL, Bill. The next one I'm not sure. There's a lot of static, so you might, if you don't hear your name, come back at the end and we'll catch up. KE5, ICX, Tom. AG9SG, Antonio. AA5AH, Robert. NV5F, Virginia. KG5WSJ, David. KF5JHA, Chaz. All right, more check-ins. Please come now.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu, Whiskey J, Norweber.
Kilo India 5, Uniform Juliet Dustin, Dallas.
W5BLT, Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, Bill, Garland.
Okay, we got KG5, BZWJ, KI5UUJ, Dustin, and W5BLT, Bill. Do we have any echo link?
Five Kilo Tango X-ray, Kelly in Quinlan.
K5 KTX, Kelly. Any more check-ins now? Okay, so let's get started. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come now. Okay. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central, you'll need EchoLink installed and be registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, which is amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston. Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, PL tone 110.9 megahertz, Tuesdays. Tom, N5HYP, is the net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is DARC Club Night, so no AMSAT East that night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL 110.9 megahertz, positive offset. Regular nets on Mondays. The first week is Ham Fixins. Second week, MCOM 101. Third week, Ham Fixins. Fourth week, GeekNet. Fifth week, Surprise Net. If we told you what it is, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. And on Tuesdays, AMSET East, 8 p.m., Q&As, info and news for amateur satellites. Fridays, CERT City Simulation, 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KF5GRH, is usually net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday. CERT City, all are welcome. Saturdays, TechNet, 7 to 8 p.m., and, of course, Skynet. First and third Sundays, Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. That's MODA, and that's at 7. Then every day, the ARRL Net, National Traffic System Training Net, every night at 6:30 p.m. Central. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. Tonight is not the last net. When we're done here at about 10:30, we'll have the Afterglow net. And I'm going to read you the synopsis. Tim O'Hara was cub reporter for the semi-daily Planet by a minor metropolitan newspaper located somewhere in America which published every other day. No one knew for sure, since the newspaper company lacked an actual physical location. The post office box in Springfield was as close as anyone got to a real location. The X-15 climbed to altitude when Air Force Mission Control noticed another flashing blip on the flashing blip machine. Both blips got very close to each other. In fact, they became one blip. Before anyone knew it, the second blip dropped from the sky. O'Hara, bored with watching moving blips, had already left the command center, satisfied with his exclusive interview with Colonel Whitehead and his secret orange chicken recipe. O'Hara wasn't interested in blip-making UFOs. Well, join us for our November Classic TV romp with the pilot episode for My Favorite Martian. It's SO1 EO1 1963. Saturday, November 26th at 10:30 p.m. I don't think that's right. I think that's tonight, November 19th. You can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Okay, do we have any additional check-ins? Please come now. Okay, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. I'd like to call on Chaz, KF5JHA, to give a report on this. Please come now, Chaz.
Well, good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. The last Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting was last night, November the 18th. And the meeting was held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas and was also held on Zoom. The featured speaker was Robert Reeves. His topic was the moon. The next one will be held, well, we don't have a meeting in December because of the holiday. So the next one will be held in January. The test meeting in January will feature speaker Dr. Erica Ellingson from the University of Colorado. It'll be about prehistoric moon watchers. That should be interesting. Now, the Saturday night public observing sessions have begun again. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night so that there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. Now, I don't believe there's one going on tonight, but believe it or not, there's supposed to be one happening on Saturday night, the Saturday night after Thanksgiving. That'll be held in Rockwall. You can check the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about the meetings and public observing sessions. Probably won't have any public observing sessions in December, so after the Saturday after Thanksgiving, it'll not be until January till the next ones. All right, this is KF5, JJ, back to our net control.
Thank you, Chaz. Next up, National Space Society events and art activities. Bill, N5BB. Could you please fill us in on that?
Yes, thank you, Brenda. This is November 5 Bravo Bravo, N5BB. I am the membership director and member at large of the National Space Society North Texas chapter. National Space Society is a group, mostly U.S., but actually there are international members, of people who are enthusiasts for human uses of space in general. And we have, our local group has monthly meetings on the second Sunday of every month. In December, we normally have a holiday party. So we're going to do that. We will not have a regular meeting with a presenter, but we'll have a holiday party on Sunday afternoon and evening, December the 11th. That's our regular meeting time. And if all works well, it will be at my new house in Irving. National Space Society North Texas chapter members will get an invitation to sign up to go to that event. But there will be no WebEx or any kind of other presentation in December by our local chapter. Our next regular meeting is going to be then in January. That's January the 8th. That's Sunday. That's the second Sunday of the month. The meeting in November was this past Sunday afternoon. It was very interesting. Break. This is N5BB. The National Space Society North Texas chapter meeting this last Sunday was about OSIRIS Apex. That is the extension of the OSIRIS-REx, the OSIRIS-REx mission to an encounter with the near-Earth asteroid Apophis. Apophis is going to get very close to the Earth in 2029, I believe, about 7 years from now. It will actually, it's expected to be, it will not hit the Earth, but it's expected to be at roughly the same distance from the surface of the Earth as geosynchronous satellites. So this will be far inside the moon's orbit. And in fact, after it passes the Earth, the asteroid will be, its trajectory will be changed significantly, its orbit, by this interaction with the Earth. It'll also narrowly miss the moon. And so the OSIRIS spacecraft, which is now coming back from Bennu, will chase along after the Earth encounter, and it will catch up to it, and it will then, for an extended period of time, view the Apophis asteroid. The Apophis asteroid is large. It's about as tall as the Eiffel Tower. And if it did hit the Earth, it would be a catastrophe. It would it could easily destroy, the DFW area. It's that big an asteroid if it came down right over us. But the good news is it's known that its orbit will not interact with the Earth, and it will not hit the Earth directly for hundreds of years, probably thousands of years, but definitely hundreds of years. It's no less than that. But it will interact with us very, very strongly in 2021. Anyway, we had a very, very interesting discussion about this presentation, and the presentation was by the chief investigator, the chief scientist involved with that. She works at the University of Arizona at Tucson. Anyway, that was last week. That's all I've got. This is N5BB. If anybody has any interest in national space... Oh, I've got one more thing. Our big yearly convention for National Space Society is going to be held here in Frisco, Texas. So this is going to be in 2023, starting May the 25th. So it'd be May the 25th through May the 28th, 5 days, 2023 in Frisco, right north of Dallas. And this will be the International Space Development Conference, ISDC 2023, break. It'll be at the MC Suites there. If you are a member of the National Space Society, you receive significant discounts for attending this. This is a big conference with, dinners with speakers and everything. So, it is a significant expense, but it's a really amazing conference. You might get to sit next to, somebody from Lockheed Martin or something. And you get to hear speakers that are people like the, vice presidents of large companies that are building spacecraft and other kinds of things, space stations, working on what we'll eat when we go to Mars, everything like that. Anyway, if you have any questions about ISDC 2023 or the National Space Society, please reach me, Bill, N5BB, N5BB at ARRL.net, or space at BYROM.net, space at byrom.net. Now that's all, N5BB. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, do we have any more check-ins now?
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John and Coppell.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf, Cruise in Arlington.
Kilo Alpha 5, Zulu Tango Papa, Kyle, Louisville.
Okay, we have Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey, John, Kilo Indo 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf Cruise, and Kilo Alpha 5, Zulu Tango Papa, Kyle. Okay, let's go on to our feature presentation, which is by me, and titled Artemis, What's Next? I know we have all enjoyed watching and rewatching the Artemis 1 launch this week. It was flawless, as far as I can tell, and very, very exciting that we're going back to the moon after all this many years. So we are eagerly awaiting its return and to see how it all went. But what's next? Well, of course, Artemis 2. And it's the second scheduled flight of the Artemis program, following the launch and splashdown of uncrewed Artemis 1, Artemis 2 aims to bring around to the moon for the first time since 1972. Artemis 2 will use the huge Space Launch System, SLS, Mega Rocket, and Orion spacecraft to launch the crew on an 8-day mission. The astronauts and mission controllers will collect data on Orion and the crew's performance to assess how ready the Artemis program is to send people to the moon's surface. The crew for Artemis 2 has not yet been named. The launch date is tentatively set for 2024, providing that all data from Artemis 1 indicates that Artemis 2 is ready for flight. Assuming Artemis 2 completes everything successfully, the first landing mission, Artemis 3, may be as soon as 2025. The Artemis 2 launch date is tentatively set for 2024, but that depends on the readiness of a few items. NASA successfully launched Artemis 1 on November 16th from Launch Complex 39B at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The mission will collect radiation data and engineering data to assist the SLS and Orion spacecraft's readiness to carry humans. If Artemis 1 completes its mission successfully from launch through splashdown, Artemis 2 will be scheduled next. The crewed mission will require new spacesuits that are built to endure the cislunar environment, which has more radiation than inside low Earth orbit, where astronauts receive more protection. As of August 2022, NASA is assembling key elements for the Artemis 2 hardware in anticipation of doing testing and integration later in the process. The Artemis 2 crew has not yet been named, but we do know it will contain 4 astronauts. NASA said in 2022 that all of its astronaut corps will be eligible for missions in the Artemis program. Additionally, the Canadian Space Agency will receive an astronaut seat on this mission. The CSA has 4 astronauts available and has also not named its Artemis crew member. CSA has 4 astronauts available, but they haven't named him or her yet. Canada received its astronaut seat after pledging to contribute robotics to NASA's human moon program. NASA plans to create a space station called Gateway that will be in orbit around the moon to support research and landing missions. Canada's Canadarm3 will do repairs and maintenance on Gateway and will include artificial intelligence to allow for some autonomous work. The planned lunar Gateway space station will house crews for between 1 and 3 months so they can perform a series of ambitious jobs to conduct space science experiments further away from Earth for long periods of time, to support missions on the surface, perhaps to even do far-out engineering work such as telerobotics. The AI will be especially crucial when the station is uncrewed, as NASA plans gaps in between crews. This approach is different from the International Space Station continual human presence, but necessary for budgetary and logistical reasons. Artemis 2 will be the first major test of the SLS and Orion spacecraft systems with humans on. The mission will aim to hit 4 major metrics of readiness according to the Canadian Space Agency: mission planning, system performance, crew interfaces, and guidance and navigation systems. The mission path will see Orion take an orbit around Earth known as hybrid free return, which will see the spacecraft orbit the Earth twice to pick up speed for the translunar injection. Orion will then swing around the moon on a free return trajectory to make a direct return back to our planet, NASA has said. The mission is expected to last between 8 and 10 days, but may be extended to as many as 3 weeks depending on the mission objectives. The 4 astronauts on board Artemis 2 will be the furthest people to fly from Earth after 1970's Apollo 13 assuming the new mission reaches its expected maximum altitude of 5,523 miles above the Moon's surface. Launch from NASA's Kennedy Space Center's Launch Pad 39B to low Earth orbit. A maneuver in Earth orbit to raise the perigee, or lowest point of the orbit, roughly 40 minutes after liftoff. This will be performed by the SLS Interim Cryogenic Propulsion Stage, or ICPS. A burn to raise the apogee or highest part of the orbit, again using the ICPS. A system check at 42 hours after the mission begins to ensure the orbit is correct, ranging from 112 miles at the closest point to Earth and 1,616 miles at the highest point. The ICPS will be disposed of, and Orion will do a translunar injection to fly to the Moon. The trip to the Moon will take 4 days and have a maximum altitude of 5,523 miles above the Moon's surface. The spacecraft will return home. Once the spacecraft is close to Earth, the crew module will separate from the European Space Module and a crew module adapter, allowing for splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. Investigators working with Artemis 2 will spend several months at least analyzing data. The next mission in line is a landing mission called Artemis 3, which will land on the surface of the Moon in 2025 if all goes to plan. NASA's Office of the Inspector General has expressed skepticism of that timeline. There have been delays in getting the human landing system ready, which will use SpaceX's Starship, due to technical and legal reasons. In addition, there were developmental delays in the spacesuits that NASA was creating. The agency has pivoted to commercial suppliers to fill the gap. Assuming Artemis 3 lands on the surface in 2025, that will be the first landing mission by humans since NASA's Apollo 17 in 1972. All right, do we have any more check-ins now? Okay, we have N5OF Clay in Mesquite. Would like to check in.
Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf in Arlington.
Last station, would you please repeat?
Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf in Arlington.
Okay, got KG5 Zulu Mike Golf Joe in Arlington. Thank you for joining the net. Okay, next we have Chaz, KF5JHA. If you would please go ahead and give your report.
Thank you, Brenda. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree is in astrophysics, and I work at the astrophysics labs and geology labs at the Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. And we call this segment of Skynet Was Up. Slide Master, that would be Tom. Thank you very much for being the Slide Master, Tom. Slide number 2, please. On November the 16th, the moon was at its third quarter phase, so the current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. On November the 23rd, the moon will be new. On November the 26th, the moon will be at its perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth, at a distance of 362,826 kilometers. On November the 30th, the moon will be at its first quarter phase. On December the 7th, the moon will be full. There's something else that's going on December 7th with the moon. I'll talk about that later. On December the 11th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 405,869 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 3, please. The famous Leonid meteor shower just passed its peak on Thursday night, Friday morning, November the 17th, 18th, was between 20 and 50 meteors per hour. You still could see some right now. The problem was that the third quarter moon interfered with seeing things after midnight, meteors after midnight. In the year 2032 or 2033, the Leonid meteor shower could produce over 1,000 meteors per hour. It did that back in the year 1999 and 2000. It was spectacular to see the meteor storm event at that point. The Alpha Monocerid meteor shower will peak on the night of November 20th, 21st, so that's just in a couple of nights, with around 5 meteors per hour, but it could have a spike of up to 400 meters per hour. It's not predictable when these meteor storms can come out of this meteor shower, so keep looking if it's clear. The November Orionid meteor shower will peak on the night of November 27th, 28th with a handful of meteors per hour. Now, for more information on meteor showers, you can find that at the International Meteor Organization, IMO.net, or the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. So tomorrow evening on November the 20th, you can find very low in the west-southwestern sky, if it's clear, I hope it is, Venus and Mercury in conjunction. Now, this will be during strong twilight. You'll probably need a pair of binoculars. Probably that would be the best way of observing this. Slide Master, slide number 5. 2 evenings later on November the 22nd, Venus, Mercury, and Antares will be in conjunction in the low west-southwestern evening sky. Again, binoculars are probably the best way of observing this. Slide Master, slide number 6. And again, just 2 evenings later, on November 24th, the moon will be beside Venus and Mercury in another conjunction that's in the low west-southwestern sky. I love to watch this dance of the planets and the moon in the sky. I hope you do too. Slide Master, slide number 7. On November the 28th, the moon and Saturn will be in conjunction in the southern evening sky. And the next slide, slide number 8, please. It was the end of the summer of 2003. It was toward the end of August, but I don't remember the exact date. But a group of over 30 task members had gathered at the Richland College campus with telescopes to have a public observing session to look at Mars. Mars was at its closest point that it had been since September 24th in the year 57,617 BC. The sky was clear, and the news media must have done a really great job of getting the word out. There were no less than 25 people in line at each one of those 30 telescopes during the few hours of the event. I wasn't in Dallas for the Halley's Comet craze, but this event with the Mars close approach back in 2003 must have been at least equal to the 1986 Comet Halley craze in events. Slide Master, slide number 9. About every 26 months, both the Earth and Mars are on the same side of the solar system. This means that they are close to each other about every 26 months. NASA uses this to their advantage by often sending spacecraft to Mars every 26 months when the two planets are closest together. Slide Master, slide number 10. Opposition is when the object is in the sky opposite the Sun as viewed from the Earth. That's 180 degrees apart in right ascension. If all the planets orbited in circular orbits and they were all on exactly the same plane as the Earth's orbital plane, then the moment of the planet being opposite in the sky would be the same as its closest approach. But since this is not the case, opposition and closest approach are usually a few days apart. December the 7th is the opposition of Mars, while November the 30th is the closest approach. That's, of course, this year in 2022. Sidemaster, slide number 11, please. All of the planets, including Mars and the Earth, orbit the Sun in elliptical orbits, and they're not precisely the same orbital plane either. Mars is close to the Sun during its perihelion and is further away from the Sun as its aphelion. Now, the same is true for the Earth. If Mars were near its perihelion and the Earth were close to its aphelion when they're on the same side of the solar system, then the planets would really be close. This happens about every 15 to 17 years. The very closest the planets Mars and Earth can come together to each other, and this is theoretical, is 33.9 million miles. But again, this is just an ideal circumstance. Sidemaster, slide number 12. Now, back on August 28th, 2003, the distance between the Earth and Mars was only 34.65 million miles. On the last close approach of Mars and the Earth on October the 6th, 2020, we were separated about 38 million miles, excuse me. Now, on this close approach, on November the 30th, we will be separated by 50.6 million miles. And not that close, I guess, but it's still closer than it usually is during the other 26 months. The next really good close approach will be in the year 2035. But it will be in the year 2287 on August 28th for Mars to get closer than it was in the year of 2003. So put that on your calendar. August 28th, 2287. Slide Master, slide number 13, please. So we have a public observing session, again, the Saturday after Thanksgiving at Rockwall. So that's when you might want to go out and take a look through a telescope in Rockwall. Again, details about that will be at the TASS website, texasastro.org. Sidemaster, slide number 14. So on November 30th, Mars will be at its closest approach to the Earth, and on December the 7th, Mars will be at its opposition, which means it's about 180 degrees or opposite the Sun in the sky. Okay, wow. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slidemaster, slide number 15, please. Once again, last night was the TASS public meeting, general meeting, and the next one won't be held until January 27th, 2023. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, also held on Zoom. The featured speaker in January will be Dr. Eric Ellison from the University of Colorado, and her topic will be prehistoric moon watchers. And once again, Saturday night public observing sessions have begun again. The next one will be the Saturday after Thanksgiving. That's a week from tonight. Hope it's clear. And then we won't have any more until the month of January. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights so that there could be an opportunity for live reports from TASS public observing sessions. Go to texasastro.org for up-to-date information. Now, slide number 16. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions about anything astronomical, or maybe need a fill on any of the information I've just given you, or maybe just a general astronomy question? Come now with your call sign if you have a question. Yeah, Kelly, she's over on Echolink. Yeah, there was this miscellaneous email that went out in the year 2003 about the planet Mars being as big as the full moon in the sky, and that wasn't right. Somebody missed something somewhere. And so that email is still circulating about this time, too, yeah. Okay, Slide Master, slide number 17. So as the moon wanes in the current sky, so do these words for this segment of Skynet: stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. And until next week, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is Chaz, KF5JHA. Back to our net control. Brenda, it's all back to you.
Thank you, Chaz. Do we have any more check-ins now? Okay, next up, Kelly, K5KTX, will give her presentation on space exploration and space history. Go ahead, Kelly.
Good evening, everyone. This is K5KTX, and Brenda spoke earlier about the Artemis 2 mission. I hope all of you were able to watch history on Wednesday morning for the Artemis 1 launch. It was spectacular, and I sure wish I could have seen it in person. The Artemis 1 mission has an important milestone coming up on Monday morning, so be sure to set your alarms. Orion's entry into the lunar sphere of influence will make the moon, instead of Earth, the main gravitational force acting on the spacecraft. Flight controllers will conduct an outbound powered flyby burn to harness the force from the moon's gravity, accelerate the spacecraft, and direct it toward a distant retrograde orbit beyond the moon. During the outbound powered flyby, Orion will make its closest approach, approximately 80 miles above the lunar surface. 4 days later, another burn using the European Service Module will insert Orion into distant retrograde orbit, where it will remain for about a week to test spacecraft systems. NASA will provide live coverage of the outbound powered flyby on Monday, November 21st, that's 2 days from now, at 6:15 a.m. Central Standard Time. The burn will occur at 6:44 a.m. with Orion's closest approach occurring shortly after 6:57 a.m. Live NASA TV coverage of the distant retrograde orbit insertion burn will be on Friday, November 25th. Will begin at 3:30 p.m. The insertion burn will occur at 3:52 p.m. Here's something fun. You can follow live tracking of Artemis 1 at the Artemis Real-Time Orbit website, or ARROW, at www.nasa.gov/specials, with an S, /track Artemis. As of now, I'm looking at the website now, the spacecraft has a velocity of 699 miles per hour. It is 226,207 miles from Earth and has 69,554 miles to go to reach the moon. In space history this week, starting with November the 14th, 1969, Apollo 12 launched from Kennedy Space Center with astronauts Charles P. Conrad, Richard Gordon, and Alan Bean. Only 36 seconds after launch, ground control lost contact with flight telemetry data. Another 16 seconds and contact broke again. The Saturn V rocket had just been struck by lightning twice. The Saturn V rocket itself was largely unaffected and continued on the planned path to orbit. But the command module electrical systems were tripped offline, and the crew would have been in real trouble once they got to orbit if it weren't for the quick thinking of 26-year-old John Aaron at Mission Control. Aaron knew that changing the position of a single switch, the Signal Conditioning Equipment, or SCE switch, would restore command module power. Approximately 50 seconds after his screen had first scrambled, he calmly issued a suggestion to his Mission Control colleagues: try SCE to aux. After reaching orbit, Mission Control and the crew found no permanent damage and proceeded on with their mission, the second human landing on the moon. On November the 14th, 1971, Mariner 9 successfully entered Mars orbit, beating the Soviet Mars 2 spacecraft, which had an 11-day head start to become the first spacecraft to orbit another planet. After the occurrence of dust storms on the planet for several months following its arrival, the orbiter managed to send back clear pictures of the surface. Mariner 9 successfully returned 7,329 images and mapped 85% of Mars' surface over the course of its mission, which concluded in October of 1972. October the 16th, 1973, the third and final Skylab crew launched. Astronauts Jerry Carr, Bill Pogue, and Ed Gibson flew to NASA's orbiting workshop for a record-breaking 84-day mission. The mission offered scientists the chance to study processes on Earth as well as in space over an extended period of time. The crew performed dozens of experiments during their 1,214 orbits. The station was actually the upper stage of a Saturn rocket converted into living and working space for the astronauts on board. The station's orbit deteriorated and burned up on atmospheric re-entry on July 11, 1979. November the 17th, 1967, Surveyor 6 made history by becoming the first spacecraft to take off from the moon. Surveyor 6 had landed on the moon in the Sinus Medii region on November the 10th, the fourth successful lunar landing in the Surveyor program. On November 17th, its engines were fired for 2.5 seconds, allowing the lander to hop across the lunar surface 2.4 meters to the west. This hop provided new information on the effects of firing rocket engines on the moon, leading to the success of the Apollo missions. Also on November the 17th, 1970, the USSR landed the first roving space probe on the moon. The rover, known as Lunokhod 1, was delivered to the moon by Luna 17. Lunokhod 1 landed in the Sea of Rains on the lunar surface and was manually operated under the control of several Soviet drivers on Earth. The mission was officially declared complete on October 4, 1971. However, the laser reflectors on the rover still work and were used in 2010 to pinpoint the location of Lunokhod 1. November the 18th, 2013, the Mars Atmospheric and Volatile Evolution, or MAVEN mission, launched to study the Martian atmosphere and climate. Specifically, the spacecraft set out to learn how Mars lost most of its atmosphere and water to space, resulting in today's Martian climate. On April the 5th, 2019, the navigation team completed a 2-month aero-braking maneuver to lower MAVEN's orbit and enable it to better serve as a communications relay for current landers as well as the Mars Perseverance robot. The spacecraft is continuing its science mission as well, with all instruments still operating and with enough fuel to last until at least 2030. On this date, November the 19th, 1969, Apollo 12 made a pinpoint landing on the moon. Commander Pete Conrad set down the lunar module, call sign Intrepid, just 535 feet away from the Surveyor 3 probe that had landed on the Ocean of Storms in April 1967. This was the first and so far only time that humans have visited a previously landed mission. The mission was enormously fruitful, including an inspection of Surveyor 3 and the return of some parts. But this crew, which included lunar module pilot Al Bean and Dick Gordon as command module pilot, was especially known for doing their work with humor and a style of their own. Upon setting foot on the moon, Commander Pete Conrad's first words were, "Whoopee! Man, that may have been one small one for Neil, but that's a long one for me." He later said that he did this to prove to an Italian journalist that NASA did not script astronaut comments. This past week, we have several astronaut birthdays to celebrate, beginning with November 14th, 1930. Ed White, who was on Gemini 4, and of course, unfortunately, we lost him during the Apollo 1 fire. Also on November the 14th, 1933, Fred Hayes, who was part of the Apollo 13 mission and still growing strong. I hope many of you got to meet him when he was here for Moon Day back in July. Also on November 14th, 1956, Ken Bowersock, who was a space shuttle astronaut multiple times, STS-50, 61, 73, 82, and 113 as part of Expedition 6. November 15th, 1959, Timothy Creamer, who was part of Expedition 22-23. November 16th, 1950, Carl Meade, Space Shuttle missions STS-38, 50, and 64. November 17th, 1944, John David Bartow, who was on Space Shuttle mission STS-51F. November 18th, 1923, Alan Shepard, Mercury Redstone 3 and Apollo 14. November 18th, 1951, Mark Brown, who was on Space Shuttle missions STS-28 and 48. November 19th, so that would be today, 1962, Nicole Stott, who was on Space Shuttle missions STS-128, part of Expeditions 2021, and Space Shuttle mission STS-129 and 133. And on November 19th, 1964, Nicholas Patrick, Space Shuttle missions STS-116 and 130. So happy birthday to all of those. And that's all I've got tonight. Back to you, Brenda. This is K5KTX.
Thank you, Kelly. Do we have any more check-ins? This is WB50ZL. Next up, Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, presented by Chaz, KF5JHA.
Thank you, Brenda. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019 with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen over Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Pegasus, the winged horse. Now, let me refresh you on this. I did this last week, but let me refresh you on the myths surrounding Pegasus. Cepheus' wife, Cassiopeia, was a very vain woman, and in some versions of the story, Cassiopeia bragged that her daughter Andromeda was more beautiful than the sea nymph. So Poseidon sent the sea monster Cetus to ravage the coast. Cepheus turned to an oracle to get advice for how to prevent the utter disaster, and the oracle told him that the only way to appease Poseidon was to sacrifice his daughter Andromeda to the sea monster. Desperate, Cepheus and Andromeda had to do this, leaving their daughter chained to a rock for Cetus, the sea monster, to find. Luckily, the hero, Perseus, came flying in on a winged horse. Okay, everyone knows the name of the winged horse, right? It's in downtown Dallas. Pegasus. And he found the princess, Perseus did, rescued her and killed the sea monster. Later, he married Andromeda, and of course, they lived happily ever after. Now, all 6 of the main characters in this story are constellations, including Pegasus, the winged horse. Slide master, slide number 19, please. This is what all of you stayed up so long tonight to hear, the jokes of the week. Okay, here we go. Slide number 19. What did you hear? Did you hear about the pony that was sick? Yeah, he was a little horse. What do you call a horse that likes to stay up late? That would be a nightmare. Why do cowboys like to ride horses? Because they're too heavy to carry. What kind of food do racehorses like to eat? Well, fast food, thank you very much, JJ. He's gotten the last two jokes. Very good, thank you very much. What do you call a horse that lives next door to you? Your neighbor. Yeah, okay. And speaking of Mr. Ed, when does Mr. Ed, the horse, talk? When he feels like it. Is it when he feels like it? Slide Master, slide number 20, please. M15 is a globular cluster located just 4 degrees from Enif, which is the star marking Pegasus' nose. I observed it just a few weeks ago from right on campus. M15 is believed to be about 30,000 light years distance. It shines at about a magnitude 6.3, which makes it bright enough for sharp-eyed folks to see with the unaided eye if you're in a very dark sky location. So it can be seen in all sorts of instruments, from the smallest binoculars to the largest telescopes. Walter Scott Houston of the Deep Sky Wonders fame wrote that one way to improve the chance of seeing it without optical aid is to look through a long cardboard tube painted black on the inside. This will cut out oftentimes the unappreciated flood of the sky brightness and improve your magnitude limit. Of course, M15 is an easy binocular object looking like a fuzzy star. Slide Master, slide number 21, please. NGC-1 and NGC-2 is what we're talking about. Dave Hutchinson in his TASS Spectrum article, the Spectrum is the newsletter for the Texas Astronomical Society, writes that many amateur astronomers know of M1, which is the Crab Nebula in Taurus Bull, but few know where NGC-1 is located. NGC stands for New General Catalog. And yeah, NGC-2 is there as well. It's in Pegasus. Of the two galaxies, NGC-1 is the brighter of the magnitude with 12.9, which is not very bright, and NGC-2 is much dimmer at a magnitude of 14.2. The two galaxies appear very close together in the sky and may be observed in the same field of view. Both of them are spiral galaxies. NGC-2 is so dim that Dave Hutchinson writes that he had to use averted vision to see it, even with a 24-inch Lone Star Observatory telescope. Slide Master, slide number 22, please. NGC 7331 is a nice spiral galaxy that is shown to be a beautiful object in photographs. It is viewed obliquely, tilted about 22 degrees from the edge on. Burnham's Celestial Handbook states that NGC 7331 is a galaxy whose photograph is often used in astronomy text to illustrate the probable appearance of our own Milky Way system, as seen from intergalactic space. Despite the fact that these days now we know that the Milky Way's nucleus has a central bar, while NGC 7331 does not. Dave Hutchinson writes that in a Spectrum article that NGC 7331 is still referred to as a twin galaxy of our Milky Way by many scientists. Its nearby companions are also called the Deer-Lick Group. Deer-Lick Group. Say that 3 times in a row. Slide Master, slide number 23, please. Stephan's Quintet, NGC 7317, NGC 7318A, 7318B, NGC 7319, and NGC 7320. Stephan's Quintet is a faint group of 5 galaxies that is difficult in small telescopes. Dave Hutchinson notes that they were easy to see in the 24-inch Lone Star Observatory telescope. Stephen J. Amira notes that the radio telescope observations show that there may be some interactions between NGC 7331 and at least one member of Stephan's Quintet. O'Meara also notes that Stephan's Quintet is famous for another heavenly way. How is that? It's used in the opening of the sequence of the well-known 1946 film It's a Wonderful Life, and I'm sure all of you will probably watch that sometime over the next month. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 24. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Pegasus, the winged horse. I've just given you a sampling of a few of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 75 different observing programs. Now, most of them have about 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and an observing pen in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide Master, slide number 25. And that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Pegasus, the winged horse. And I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on deep sky objects that I use and borrow and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now next time, it's a 2-for-1 night. Sculptor, the Sculptor's Workshop, and Phoenix, a very special bird. And this is KF5, JHA, sending it back to our net control. It's all back to you, Brenda. 73, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Chaz. Do we have any more check-ins now? Okay, next up, space launches for this week. Tom, K5ICX, what do you have for us?
Well, thank you, Brenda, and thank you for doing the net this evening. Space launches for this week. I get this info from spacecoastlaunches.com. I also get it from spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule, which is what I'm going to read from right now. November 21st, 22nd, overnight, Eutelsat 10B will launch from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch the Eutelsat 10B communication satellite for Eutelsat, based on the Space Bus Neo platform built by PAL Alina Space. Eutelsat 10B will provide maritime and in-flight broadband data and video connectivity to customers in the Americas, the Atlantic Ocean, Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and Central Asia. The Falcon 9's first stage will be expended. Oh, I guess they are not going to return it. November 22nd, it will be another SpaceX launch, this one from Launch Complex 39A from Kennedy Space Center. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch a Dragon 2 spacecraft on its 6th cargo resupply mission to the International Space Station. The Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. The flight is the 26th mission of SpaceX conducted under the Commercial Resupply Services contract with NASA. November 24th, 25th will be a launch from Kourou, French Guiana. This is from launch site GLZ. An Ariane Space Vega C rocket will launch the Pleiades Neo 5 and 6 Earth observation satellites for Airbus. Pleiades Neo 5 and 6 are the third and fourth members of the four-satellite Pleiades Neo constellation, built, owned, and operated by Airbus. On November 28th, there's another Falcon 9 launch. This one's called iSpace Mission 1. There will be the first commercial lunar lander for iSpace, a Japan-based company that competed for the Google Lunar X Prize and now is developing a series of robotic lunar landers. The lunar lander, called iSpace Mission 1, was assembled in partnership with Ariane Group and carries a package of international and commercial payloads, including 2 small lunar rovers from the United Arab Emirates and Japan. The mission will target a landing in the Lacus Sunirium region of the Moon. NASA's Lunar Flashlight CubeSat will be a rideshare payload on this launch. Falcon 9's first stage booster will return to the landing zone 1 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. In late November, there'll be a launch of the Shenzhou 15 on a Long March 2F from Jiuquan, China. will launch the spacecraft with 3 Chinese astronauts, and will rendezvous and dock with the Chinese space station, now in low Earth orbit. This is China's 10th crewed space mission and the 4th to the Chinese space station. The crew members have not been officially named yet. And a few more for what's going to be looks like a very busy rest of November. We have a Falcon 9 Starlink 4-37 launch, SLC-40 from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. We'll launch another batch of Starlink Internet satellites. Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. In November, early December, we have a OneWeb at 15 launching from Launch Complex 39A, Kennedy Space Center. Falcon 9 rocket will launch 40 satellites into orbit for OneWeb, which is developing and deploying Constellation hundreds of satellites in low Earth orbit for low latency broadband communications. This will be the first launch of OneWeb satellites with SpaceX. Falcon 9's first stage booster will return to landing zone 1 at Cape Canaveral. Also, we have coming up sometime the Starship orbital test flight. This will be yet to be determined. It'll fly from a Starbase in Boca Chica Beach, Texas. The SpaceX Super Heavy and Starship launch vehicle will launch on its first orbital test flight. The mission will attempt to travel around the world for nearly one full orbit, resulting in re-entry and splashdown of the Starship near Hawaii. We also have an SSLV launch, Black Sky Global, from Satish Dhawan Space Center and Sriharikota, India. The Small Satellite Launch Vehicle, or SSLV, will launch on its first commercial mission with 4 Earth observation satellites for Black Sky Global, a Seattle-based company. The rideshare mission for Black Sky is being arranged by Spaceflight. That's the name of the company, by the way. Let me see. Oh, I've got so much in here. I think I'm going to stop now. I went crazy and put too many things in. So back to you, Brenda. This is KE5ICX. WB5OZL, KE5ICX. Are you out there?
This is WB5OZL. Hang on, I'm looking for my article. Next up, Mars was once covered by 300-meter deep oceans, study shows. Mars is called a red planet, but once it was actually blue and covered in water, bringing us closer to finding out if Mars had ever harbored life. Most researchers agree there has been water on Mars, but just how much water is still debated. Now a study from the University of Copenhagen shows that some 4.5 billion years ago, there was enough water for the entire planet to be covered in a 300-meter deep ocean. At this time, Mars was bombarded with asteroids filled with ice. It happened in the first 100 million years of the planet's evolution. Another interesting angle is that the asteroids also carried organic molecules that are biologically important for life, says Professor Martin Bizzarro from the Center for Star and Planet Formation. In addition to water, the icy asteroids also brought biologically relevant molecules such as amino acids to the red planet. Amino acids are used when DNA and RNA form bases that contain everything a cell needs. The study was published in the journal Science Advances. Mars may have had the conditions for life before Earth. The new study indicates that the oceans that covered the entire planet in water were at least 300 meters deep. They may have been up to 1 kilometer deep. In comparison, there is actually very little water on Earth, explains Martin Bizzarro. This happened within Mars's first 100 million years. After this period, something catastrophic happened for potential life on Earth. It is believed there was a gigantic collision between the Earth and another Mars-sized planet. It was an energetic collision that formed the Earth-Moon system and, at the same time, wiped out all potential life on Earth, says Martin Bizzarro. Therefore, the researchers have really strong evidence that conditions allowing the emergence of life were present on Mars long before Earth. A billion-year-old meteorite. It was by means of a meteorite that is billions of years old that the researchers have been able to look into Mars's past history. The meteorite was once part of Mars's original crust and offers a unique insight into what happened at the time when the solar system was formed. The whole secret is hiding in the way of Mars's surface has been created, and of which the meteorite was once a part, because it is a surface that does not move. On Earth, it is opposite. The tectonic plates are in perpetual motion and recycled in the planet's interior. Plate tectonics on Earth erase all evidence of what happened in the first 500 million years of our planet's history. The plates constantly move and are recycled back and destroyed into the interior of our planet. In contrast, Mars does not have plate tectonics such that the planet's surface preserves a record of the earliest history of the planet, explains Martin Bizzarro. This is from Science Daily at ScienceDaily.com. Okay, any more check-ins right now?
This is Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Okay, we have a couple, K5 KOV Phillip in Wills Point, and then KG5 APZ Patrick. Hold on, stand by. All right, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. Tom, KE5ICX. Could you fill us in on that?
Yeah, thank you again, Brenda. I don't have a lot tonight, but I do have, hopefully you saw this evening earlier, about, I think it was 6:30, the ISS pass over. I don't know if it's still cloudy out or not. It could be. No, it was clear later this afternoon, but I don't know. We may have seen it. But there is one, another pass on November 20th. That's tomorrow. So it'll be minus 2.3 magnitude, 1748 in the evening. The west-southwest, it reaches highest point at 1751 at 31 degrees. It'll fall at 1754 to the north-northeast. Next up is Tiangong, which we talked about earlier, the space station that's currently in orbit and has received another module, so it's going to be a little bit brighter. Let's see here. We have November 27th is a good pass, minus a 1.2 magnitude. 1826 in the evening out of the south-southwest, reaches its highest point at 34 degrees. At 1829, it falls at 1830 to the east-southeast. It reaches about 26 degrees and then goes into shadow. Next is the 28th, minus 1.2 magnitude. It's about an hour, 90 minutes later, the following evening at 1905. In the evening, out of the west-southwest, it reaches its highest point at 47 degrees at 1907, and it'll fall at 1907.37. That means at its highest point, it will also go into shadow. Now, here's a new one. And I will do a segment on this. I don't know exactly what this is, but it's been added to the list of satellites that are trackable, and this is called Blue Walker 3. Blue Walker 3, it has one pass on November 21st that's pretty good. No brightness on this thing, so I don't know if it's visible from Dallas or not, but I thought I'd add it just because it's out there. 1756 out of the south-southwest. It'll reach its highest point at 59 degrees at 1800, and it'll fall to the northeast at 1804 at 10 degrees. That's it, Brenda. That's all I got for this evening. This is KE5ICX.
All right, we are just about on time tonight. Do we have any, does anybody need any fills or have any remarks or questions, or are there any final check-ins? Please come now. Okay, tonight we had 21 hams participating on the air. Thanks to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is WB50ZL, Brenda, and I'll be closing the net at 10:22 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73 everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And stand by for our next net, KE5ICX. What time are we going to start after glow?
Let's go ahead and start at 10:30, which would be our traditional time. So you get about 8 minutes to reset everybody. KE5ICX.
Thank you. See you all in a few minutes. WB50ZL.
normal state.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Okay, this is Tom, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. And I will be your net control this evening. I think I put down the wrong date for something because people kept asking me, are we having a net tonight? Well, we are, and tonight's movie, or actually television show, is called My Favorite Martian from 1963. So, my apologies, I put the wrong date down. I probably did. Nothing new from me. I do that sort of thing all the time. I don't know why. But at any rate. So you can join us. What's really interesting about this one is we just had a 30-minute show. That's it. Not a long movie, not a couple of hours, not even 90 minutes, not even our usual 1 hour and 10-minute movies, or even our 44-minute episodes we've been talking about this week. We have one that's actually about 25 minutes long. So if you didn't see it, it's your fault. So here we go. I'm going to tell you about it, and I'll tell you what the rules of the game are, and then we can do check-in. So here we go. So here's some details from my from the Wikipedia. It says the following. It says, My Favorite Martian is an American sitcom that aired on CBS from September 29, 1963 to May 1st, 1966 for 107 episodes. The show stars Ray Walston as Uncle Martin, the Martian, and Bill Bixby as Tim O'Hara. The first 2 seasons, totaling 75 episodes, were in black and white, while there were 32 episodes of the third and final season filmed in color. The central characters were created by John L. Green and developed the core format of the series, which was produced by Jay Chertoff. So here's the premise, and then I'll read you the other stuff. Well, actually, it's right here. A human-looking extraterrestrial is a one-man spaceship nearly collides at a high altitude with the U.S. Air Force rocket plane, the North American X-15. The spaceship's pilot is a 450-year-old anthropologist from Mars. Tim O'Hara, the young newspaper reporter for the Los Angeles Sun, is on his way home from Edwards Air Force Base, where he had gone to report on the flight of the X-15. Returning home to Los Angeles, O'Hara spots the same silver spaceship coming down quickly, after which it crash lands nearby. Tim takes in the Martian, saying to other people that he is Tim's Uncle Martin. The Martian refuses to reveal any of his special traits to humans other than Tim, to avoid both publicity and human panic. Tim agrees to keep Martian's Earth identity a secret while he attempts to repair his spaceship. Uncle Martin has various unusual powers. He can raise 2 retractable antennae from the back of his head and become invisible. He is telepathic and can read and influence minds. He can levitate objects with the motion of his index finger. He can communicate with animals. He can freeze people or objects, and he can speed himself and other people up to do any kind of work. He's also an inventor. Uncle Martin built several advanced devices, such as a time machine that transports Tim and the Martian to England in the Middle Ages, and other times and places such as St. Louis in 1849 in the early days of Hollywood, and brings Leonardo da Vinci and Jesse James into the present. Another device he builds is a molecular separator that can take apart the molecules of any physical object or rearrange them. A squirrel is made into a human. Another device can take memories and store them in pill form to relearn them later. Other devices create temporary duplicates or levitate Martin and others without the need of his index finger. Tim and Uncle Martin live in a garage apartment owned by a congenial but scatterbrained landlady, Miss Lorelei Brown, a former wave as revealed in the first episode of Season 1, who often shows up when not wanted. The Martian and she have an awkward romance from time to time, but Uncle Martin never gets serious for fear of his ultimately going home to Mars. She later dates a vain, cold-hearted, plainclothes police officer, David Bill Brennan, who dislikes Uncle Martin and is highly suspicious of him and his activities. Martin O'Hara's real name is actually Exegius 12 and a half. Revealed in the episode We Love You, Miss Pringle, and is heard again when his real nephew, Andromeda, played by a young Wayne Stan, crash lands on Earth late in the show's third season. Andromeda, originally devised to bring younger viewers to the show, disappeared without explanation after this single episode, and it was not referred to again in the live-action series' 8 remaining episodes. Andromeda was, however, a regular on a later My Favorite Martians animated series. Andromeda had a single antenna, which Martin explained was because his baby antenna had fallen out and only one adult antenna had come in so far. Uncle Martin also reveals that on Mars he lives on Fulton Canal, which ultimately leads to comedic mix-ups and confusions with Canal Fulton, Ohio. All right, some of this we already covered, but I'll go ahead and read it. It does have a synopsis for the pilot episode. Newspaper reporter Tim O'Hara, played by Bill Bixby, while covering a flight of the X-15, finds a damaged spaceship that contains a genuine Martian, played by Ray Walston. The Martian is a professor of anthropology who specializes in planet Earth. Tim brings the injured Martian back to his house. To get back past Tim's nosy landlady, Miss Lorelei Brown, played by Pamela Britton, the Martian turns invisible. After writing an article about the pilot of the X-15 seeing a flying saucer, Lieutenant Murphy comes to question Tim. Tim passes the Martian off as his Uncle Martin because he won't reveal the source of the story to Colonel Whitehead of the Air Force. Tim is put in jail. Uncle Martin comes up with a way to get Tim off the hook. Martin now has a way to repair his spaceship. So there you have it. That was the first episode. And it ran for 3 seasons, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, this is what we'll do. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen since it's not a lot of material, but I suspect we probably talk about this show and the movie that came out, and if you know something about the animated series, I don't. Maybe you can bring that up as well. So what we'll do is we'll take check-ins, and we will ask if you saw My Favorite Martian, the pilot episode, and or if you've seen the series, that's fine too. Just let me know that. So please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see My Favorite Martian, the pilot episode? Then we will talk about the plot, go down the list. Then we'll talk about characterization and the acting. And then finally, our third round, we will discuss everything else, the music, the special effects, anything you want, sound, picture, anything. That'll be probably the open round. So let's go ahead and get started. I will take check-ins. We're going to be talking about My Favorite Martian from 1963, the pilot episode. If you've seen if you'd like to join us, you don't have to have seen it, but if you did, that would be nice. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see the pilot episode of My Favorite Martian?
November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill in Austin, Bill in Irving. And yes, I saw this pilot episode today, and I watched many of the episodes when they originally broadcast from 1963 to 1966 in 5BB.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. Yes, I saw the episode.
I saw the pilots. Yeah, I've also seen. I don't know that I've seen the whole thing because I saw the UHF television stations back in the day. But anyway, just read from KG5B to W.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. Yes, I saw the episode.
This is November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. I saw the episode just in case.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in DeSoto. Yes, I saw the episode, and I saw a lot of these when I was a youngster.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf Cruise in Arlington. Yes, I saw it.
All right, let's stop there, and I'll go ahead and acknowledge everybody who's checked in so far. I've got M5BB, Bill in Irving. Yep, he saw it. NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. Yep, he saw it. KSI BZWJ near Weatherford. Yep, he saw it. NV5S, Virginia near Fort Worth. Yes, she saw it. WB50ZL, Brenda in DeSoto. Yep, she saw it. KI5KWG, Cruz in Arlington. He saw it as well. Anyone else want to join us this evening? Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see the pilot episode of My Favorite Martian from 1963? Okay, that's not a bad start. We'll go ahead and work with these folks, and I have a feeling we'll get additional check-ins a little later. So here we go. We'll go through the list. N5BB, Bill, what did you think about the plot, and anything else you want to say about when it comes to the premise of the show? We know that it went on for 3 seasons, so there's plenty to talk about. So Bill, go ahead. Your thoughts on the pilot and the series in general, as far as the script and story.
Very good, Tom. This is N5BB. Well, I did see the original series when it originally aired. Of course, not all the episodes, there were a jillion of them, but I watched probably quite a few of them. Although I can't remember all the detailed plots, I just remember the general, ways that the Martian acted and that Tim acted and everything. So some general things about it. I really liked the 2 main actors, Ray Ralston and Bill Bixby. And I'd saw them in other things, and I just liked them. So that kind of made me like the series, just because I liked the people. They were likable. And I think that was a big part of the draw to this. And for a kid, because these episodes were from, I was in the 4th grade when it started, in the 6th grade, I think, when it ended. For a kid, this was pretty interesting. It wasn't real complex adult things. It was just pretty simple things. A Martian that could, speak telepathically, could disappear, had his own little spacecraft he was trying to repair, and Bill Bixby, who is always getting in trouble, and Martin got him out of trouble. And one comment about the general plot idea: back in the early and mid '60s, there were several other TV shows. Some I think probably produced by the same studios that had similar kinds of supernatural kinds of things. So there was, of course, Bewitched, but there was I Dream of Jeannie, and in particular, I Dream of Jeannie has many similarities to this series. Why? Well, they were dealing with military people trying to fool them about different things happening, and there was space and things involved, and people could disappear, and other things could happen that were kind of supernatural-like. So there were some similarities between this and some other series that for some reason all came out there in the mid-'60s that were also were things that happened that weren't strictly science-based, based on current science. This even further than science fiction, I think you'd say here. I mean, the whole premise of this Martian is really past normal science fiction. It's really just a fantasy thing. But again, I thought it was enjoyable. It's just a TV show. It's just a pilot for a TV show, so we really can't, criticize too much of the silly nature of it. That's just what it was, a TV show. That's all I got for now in 5BB.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Bill. Next up is Tony, NT5TM. Tony, this should be a good one. I don't know if you've ever seen this series or not, but what are your impressions from KE5ICX?
Hey, Tom, I had seen a few of these, but don't remember them well. When kids like me were homesick from school and watching reruns, the favorites to look for were, in particular, Hogan's Heroes, at least, with the kids on my street. So I may have seen a couple, but they never made an impression with me. I thought this was pleasant and short. It did a good, quick job of introducing the characters. Really, the plot was just structured to, hey, look, the characters are now all in the same place at the same time, and here's a quick introduction to their character traits and abilities. Obviously, it would be up to the writers and the actors in the future episodes to not let the Martian turn to just a simple Mary Sue, I fix it, without having some good jokes in the meantime. But, back in the day when there was nothing else on, and I guess you couldn't read a book and you had to watch network television, this seemed pleasant enough. Not a whole lot to say about it, so I won't talk for too long. Just pleasant and amusing. NT5TM.
Oh my, do I get a feeling this is going to be a really short net this evening? Well, we'll see what happens. K5BZW, or I forget. Jay, give me your call again, and I should know that, but I just wrote it down and I can't recall. What did you think of the pilot for My Favorite Martian from 1963?
This is Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey. Sorry, Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey. I was trying to listen on Echo Link at the same time just to see what my signal was. Like it. Yeah, I remember. I said it was UHF channels, but and it probably was. I just don't know. The problem is, so long ago. I know there was also Nick at Night and all that, which I watched when I went to see my grandparents. I never had cable or anything at home, though, so I guess the whole thing I'm trying to get at is I'm also trying to make sure I'm not messing up my I'm standing in sometimes my key, my foot pedal just does not work. So I'm hoping this all gets through. I have fond memories of the shows that I did watch. Very vague memories. I don't remember the overall plot or anything. I do remember some of the stuff that was introduced in the pilot episode. In fact, I may have even seen the pilot episode. I didn't recall the little gadget being kind of floated away. That was sort of like functioned as some sort of a not transverter, but a frequency. Like a transverter. Anyway, whatever. Let me reset. I'm kind of glad Phil brought up there are two shows that it kind of reminds me of. I guess the main difference is that instead of the women being the deliverer, what's the word? Those endowed with the supernatural arts, it's now a guy, as some guy from who knows where. Well, of course, Mars, but we know that. But anyway, but yeah, all of my memories of those kinds of shows kind of tend to run together. I do know this. Have memories of this because it was black and white. This particular episode, there's not much really. It's an introductory episode. You learn who the characters are and general traits, and it's like, can you really get into it? I don't know. And I don't remember the shows, the little mini plots for each episode were pretty tame, and seems like I Dream a Dream Genie had a little bit more well, I guess because her husband was astronaut slash I don't remember his rank or anything. Whereas this guy is just a reporter. I honestly don't know the whole thing about being having someone that can read one's mind while doing doing reports and stuff. I can't even remember a single episode. But I remember that being fun. That's all I know. It almost makes me want to watch them again. Will I? I'd have to be really bored enough to do it, or nostalgic, I suppose. But anyway, I don't know. Not much else to say for now. KG5BTW.
Okay, thank you, Jay. And I got you Kilo Golf 5 BZW. I knew that after you started, and well, a little tired this evening. Next is Virginia, MD5F. Virginia, what did you think of My Favorite Martian from 1963, the pilot episode?
KE5 ICX, Eminent, this is MD5F. Well, I admittedly had never seen this show before. I've known about it, and I've just never really had the opportunity to watch it. So it was just fun to see something brand new. I enjoyed the sitcom format. I think while we were watching it, Tom, you made you made the comment messenger that you had forgotten it had a laugh track. I remember watching shows like the Dick Van Dyke Show and all those common reruns when I was growing up. It's kind of fun, just that format, and it's a longer version of what we have now. So and the sitcom format is practically gone anymore. But I like these old ones, who was it earlier? I guess Bill a minute ago said that there seemed to be common threads. I think that happened a lot in, we had 3 big networks, and with TV shows, it happened a lot with cartoons. The Saturday morning cartoons were, very formulaic, and there was just things that were trendy, and people would do the same kind of basic format of, like I Dream of Jeannie, where it's an astronaut who washes up on an island and finds a bottle with a genie in it and brings it home from his space mission, or if it's a reporter who hears about gets run out of the control room before he finds out about the flying saucer, but he finds it anyway, and the alien / genie / whatever has a magical powers of some kind. It's kind of just a fun, lighthearted response to modern things like the space program and what was going on at the time versus the more serious things like Star Trek and some other ones. So I kind of like let's kind of make fun of this, let's make fun of this sort of modern thing that's going on. So I enjoyed that. It was a fun, easy to follow plot. The characters were interesting. The story was just a good, straightforward story. A little predictable, but still just really funny and just very enjoyable. I wouldn't mind watching more of these. I'll probably find some of them and when I just need a little bit of nothing to do, I'll put some of these on because I just think it's a pretty funny idea, pretty funny kind of overall idea for a show. So I think I'll enjoy watching some more of these. I have a few more comments that I'll definitely make for the next round. So thanks, Tom, for something a little different. K5ICX NV5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. And yeah, well, sometimes we've watched hundreds of movies now, so we've been doing this for about 5 years at least. So yeah, we've done hundreds of movies and we've seen them all. Some of them 2, sometimes 3 times. So trying to find some different things that might be fun. I do have some notes from last week. I'll see about adding them into the list. So we will continue, of course, with our science fiction television series thing for the rest of this month. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda has also seen My Favorite Martian from 1963, a pilot episode. What are your thoughts on the plot and the premise? I guess I can ask both those questions since it was a series from KE5ICX.
Thank you. This is WB50ZL. Well, I loved it. It was stupid, but all the TV shows in the 60s they were all predictable, well, all the comedies, and silly, but that's okay. It was just enjoyable. They were just a good romp, and you could just sit back and not have to worry about anything, just be entertained. There's just something delightful about that. I did see a lot of them back in the day. I probably didn't see them all, but I do remember seeing a lot of them. The plot, it's ridiculously simple. Martian lands on Earth, and hides out incognito in a lot of the comedies around pretending it's not so. You know, we had Mork and Mindy, same kind of premise, and I Dream of Jeannie, same thing. It's very formulaic, but it works. So, 1963, we were all just about to be in love with space. We were people that were aware of space at the time, as I was, watching carefully and anticipating that first moon landing. And it was a very exciting time in terms of space. So space was a pretty good theme. At that time, we hadn't yet had any really good space movies. We had all the B movies, but it would be a few years yet before we had 2001 and Star Trek. So this is as good as it got. Of course, there was Twilight Zone had some space themes, and that was more for adults, and I watched every one of those avidly. It was just a must-see for me every week, whereas my favorite Martian is like, well, if it's on, I'll watch it. And it was okay. I didn't like the laugh track, but they all did that back then. And, a lot of it is pretty standard, with the girls flirting and just very objectified, and him just being a goofball when she comes around. Just pretty standard fare there. Okay, back to net. WB follows at L.
Thank you, Brenda. And next up is Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, your thoughts on My Favorite Martian from 1963.
KI5KWG. I enjoyed this. It reminded me when I was seeing them as reruns. I was 3 when this one came out, and I don't believe I ever saw the pilot until this week. But as Brenda said, I watched it when it was on. If I was in front of the TV and this was on, I'd sit down and watch it, and I remember enjoying it. Kind of surprised on this one. I have notes here. In the 50s, they were all about leopard skin bikinis, the girls, and in this one, we had apparently developed to the point of having short 90s, which she conveniently forgot she was wearing. So, but I'm all for objectification. I'm a fan of that. And we never saw this woman again, apparently. Let's see, I had plot notes, Star Trek Inverted, as in Why We Travel to Other Worlds. They had the Martian being an anthropologist, which pretty much is a main theme in the Star Trek episodes. As I recall watching the series as a kid, I have this impression that the superpower needed for plot resolution was just pulled out of a hat. There's that ex-mechanic thing again going on, the cavalry coming over the hill where you really can't see it coming because you didn't know. Oh, have I not mentioned I have X-ray vision? Oh, have I not mentioned that I'm bulletproof? And those kind of things I kept happening throughout the series. What else do I have on this? Oh, yeah, that it always came on with Mr. Ed. That was a memory I had from this. So that's what I've got on the plot. I do want to say that I was bad and came unprepared for class last week, so I did watch Briscoe County based on y'all's reviews, and I had a lot of fun watching that. So thanks for that. KI5KWG, back to net.
All right, thank you, Cruz, and I'm glad that you like the Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. As you heard us last week, we emoted over that show. It was just really wonderful and very unusual in how it was portrayed and just mixed a bunch of things together. But we discussed that. All right, before I give my comments, I'm going to go ahead and ask if there's any additional check-ins. We were talking about this the Afterglow Movie Net, and we are discussing My Favorite Martian from 1963, the TV series. And we watched the first episode, which was the pilot. So anybody out there who'd like to join us, or if you haven't seen it, that's okay too. We don't mind. We just like to know that you're out there and listening. So please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see My Favorite Martian?
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this one.
Okay, we got you, Sean, KB9SOK over in Fort Worth. So your comments on, we're doing plot, so, and premise, really, I guess. So your thoughts on My Favorite Martian from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, as has been mentioned, this was a pretty simple plot. You know, obviously it was a sitcom, so back in the 60s, so kind of what do you expect? One of the notes I made, I thought, wow, apparently his fellow Martians must not have thought very much of him because, you know, with their advanced technology, you think they would have known that he'd crashed and somebody would have came and got him. So I thought, well, okay, he must have been pretty well liked. It might have been funnier if they just said that, you know, he was there secretly. No one knew that he was exploring Earth. So, but anyway, yeah, this was just a simple, fun little, you know, comedy from the 60s. Something not to take too seriously. You know, as with all comedies, it's just, you know, to fit your style. And I thought it was cute for the 60s. This was something, yeah, I had seen a few of the reruns. I didn't see it live, of course. But this is, you know, unlike the other movies or other TV shows everybody's brought up, like, you know, Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie. Those I've seen, I think pretty much all of them. For some reason, I'm not sure why I haven't caught more of these in syndication. And I just remember seeing just a few of them and didn't see most of them. I definitely haven't seen the pilot, so it was kind of interesting to see how the show started. So that was good. One other note I made, because I went ahead and decided to watch the first and second regular episode afterwards since this was so short, because they were right there on that same platform, and it was kind of interesting you can see where they were kind of going with it. But as the last person mentioned about the superpowers new every week, that's kind of how the first couple episodes kind of started out. Is, you know, because and there in the pilot, when he moved the ship off the truck, he had to use his device to levitate it and move it instead of his finger. And then in the first regular episode, we see him, you know, magically he can move stuff with his finger. So, you know, obviously they were just adding things as they need them, but that's understandable. And once again, it's a comedy. It's just supposed to be make you laugh. Just, you know, not a deep thinker. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the show, I think, in some ways, you know, obviously it was. This lasted 3 seasons. As is mentioned, other shows like this followed, probably inspired by this, like Mork and Mindy. We had Alf, which crashed, and that, you know, that went on a few seasons. Then we had Third Rock from the Sun. So we've had several other shows that have kind of followed this format that have all done actually okay, you know, that they made it past more than one season. So, yeah, just simple, but just one of those things, just simple and fun. Back to that. This is KB9SOK.
Thank you, Sean. And yes, we've introduced you to something new, or very old in this case. Okay, my comments. I agree with what everybody said about it. It's just a comedy, and it's kind of cute, and it's fun. And we'll get into characterization and the actors, which I think is really what made the show a lot of fun, are the two people. But let's talk premise and all of that. First off, you may have noticed that it was produced by Sheldon Leonard, and we've seen him in the past, but you may recall he did a lot of television shows back in the 60s and 50s, Danny Thomas Show, a.k.a. Make Room for Daddy, Gomer Pyle, Andy Griffith's Show, Dick Van Dyke Show. Does this sound all familiar? Linus. Then there was he actually played a bad guy. Usually played gangsters in movies. He was in Dragnet, and he was in what was it? To Have and Have Not. So when you see him, you'll recognize him. But he maybe as a character actor, but also as the name, and never realizing that's the same guy. But there's they play homage to him in The Big Bang Theory because they have two characters. They have Sheldon Cooper and Leonard Hofstadter. Sheldon, Leonard. There you have it. That's where they got the names, was from Sheldon Leonard. So I thought that was kind of cool. So some comments. First off, this reminds me, now the show was on the air for 3 years. And as you noticed, when they brought the spaceship in, there's a little scratch on it from the X-15, and the spaceship cannot be repaired. Similar to the SS Minnow that had that hole in it that nobody could fix, but they could build almost rocket ships out of wicker. I always wondered why Uncle Martin could never get the spaceship repaired, but then we'd have no show, would we? So he didn't spend a lot of time on it. There's some other things, too. I connect another show to this called Earth Final Conflict, which is about it's a Gene Roddenberry reconstruction. He's long since died, but his estate had figured out how they could make some money off of some of his ideas. So there was a series called Earth Final Conflict, which ran, I believe, 4 seasons. And they had aliens who came to Earth. We didn't know what their purpose was. They set themselves up with the United Nations and their own little business thing and all that. And they seemed to be benevolent, but they were anything but. But one of the things that would happen all the time on that show is that the Taurons, who were the aliens, would always have some technology that they would lose. Every frickin' week they would lose the technology. These advanced extraterrestrial interstellar travelers would lose something, and it'd always be left near a trash can or accidentally dropped out of whatever their spaceships are or something, and then it would malfunction, and then they'd have to send in these same 3 people to go and fix up, playing the fixers, and do whatever they needed to do. Well, I think they probably got this from Uncle Martin because he would build stuff and it wouldn't always work correctly. So it's a little outside of the original premise or plot, but it was a common trope that they used in order to advance the stories forward. So I can't help but think that Earth Final Conflict is really my favorite Martian with Taurons. So my favorite Taurons is what it is. Now there's I agree. There's a comment. Who was it? Maybe it was Cruz that mentioned. Oh yeah, it was Cruz that mentioned it. Said that it was always accompanied by Mr. Ed in reruns, and yes, it is. Those 2 shows followed closely. I don't know if they were produced by the same people or not. I'd have to go back and look, or in the same distribution group. But sometimes that's what they would do: package them all up and send them out as various episodes, various shows following one another to fill out an hour, which is very popular today, usually putting either 2 episodes together or 2 closely related shows together that are of the same vintage. Now, I wanted to bring something up. I don't know if anybody, when you watch the version that I watched, it's a special version. It was put out by a guy named Doug Drexler. He's a special effects guy. He's worked on Battlestar Galactica, the new series. I have some of his stuff, believe it or not, that he produced back in the 1970s when he was a fan of Star Trek. So he's a super fan of Star Trek, and he is a super fan of this series. He loves it. So he helped create some, minor effects in the thing, but he goes way beyond that, having done effects for Battlestar Galactica. But he has an unusual thing going on. He has Uncle Martin's spaceship, the original that was used as a prop in the series. Somehow or another, he ended up with the thing, and he's restored it. And what's hilarious about it is I watched as Uncle Martin levitated his spaceship and put it in the one-car garage in the below their studio apartment up above, or I should say whatever it is. Anyway, the thing. Well, there's a movie of him, really a bunch of freeze frames, I guess, of them doing exactly the same thing and putting the Uncle Martin spaceship in his one-car garage out in California. He's quite a character, and it takes up space. He's got a robot from Lost in Space there. He's got some casts from the Sea View from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. He's got, this is interesting, a B-17, what do you call it, cockpit control panel, a real one from a B-17G. So he is quite the collector of interesting things. He's a really fun guy. If you can follow him on Facebook, he is quite interesting and shares a lot of things. But the version you saw, if you followed the link last night or this week, is the one that he did and did those little special 3D effects at the beginning and in the episode. Okay, well, that's enough of that. Did I miss anything? Oh, the laugh track, we talked about that. No, I got all the notes here. All right, so now we'll go ahead and go to the top of the list. We will talk about the characterizations. We've got Uncle Martin, we've got Tim O'Hara, Lorelei Brown, Mr. Burns, not that Mr. Burns, Detective Brennan, and a few others from this episode. So we'll go ahead and start at the top with Bill, N5BB. What did you think of characterization and acting in My Favorite Martian from KE5ICX?
Oh, this is N5BB. I think the actors did it well enough, let's say. Bill Bixby, is the right kind of, he's the right kind of actor to get animated and play this kind of character. He can do that. He's a pretty good actor. And Ray Walston was also a pretty good actor, and he could do what he needed to do here, act like this professorial Martian that was smarter than all these Earthlings and thought they were beneath him. And I think he pulled that off pretty good. And, what can you say? Annabelle was only in this issue. And, as Brenda said, she did one thing. She just practically slobbered over over Tim. And that was about all she did. So, she didn't have much. If they put her in other episodes, they could have developed maybe a romance or some other kind of connection there, but they didn't do that. So that was just kind of a throwaway thing. And the woman there that I guess was supposed to be her mother, but the character that's the landlady, in the later episodes, she is more of a harebrained, goofy person. A little bit more like, I think, the woman next door, what is her name, Gladys or something, in Bewitched, But in this episode, she was a pretty smart, woman that, Martin read her mind or something, or Annabelle's mind, and figured out that the landlady was a pretty sharp lady there, at least in this episode. And she wasn't, a goofy person or anything. The military people were stereotyped. What can you say? And the government agents were stereotyped. And one of those guys I've seen in many other things, I can't remember his name, but he's a standard character we saw in many other the films we've seen. That was just standard stereotype stuff, just exactly like what you would see in many of these other sci-fi movies of the 50s and 60s, and You know, the government people kind of bungling things and not knowing what they're doing and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't very deep. You know, you didn't really learn, inside BB break, you didn't really learn much of a backstory. Did Uncle Martin, did we learn anything about the Martians at all? Other than, you know, the gravity was heavier on Earth and there's a lot more oxygen. Did we really learn anything all about him other than the fact that he was supposedly the person that knew most about Earth and he was very old? No. But this was the pilot episode. So hopefully, I can't remember, but hopefully we'll learn more in later episodes. Did we learn much about Tim? No. He was a newspaper reporter. A little, let's see, we learned that he likes to not wake up when his alarms go off, a little bit undependable. And was, I guess, a reasonably intelligent guy. Did we learn much else? Not really. So there wasn't much backstory, but there didn't need to be. This is the pilot episode of a TV series. We shouldn't expect very much from it. As far as why we didn't see too many of these in replays later, I think one of the reasons is that other than the last series, most of them were black and white, and they were pretty simple. And I don't know, it just didn't have as much draw probably as Gilligan's Island or things like that. Or maybe I Dream of Jeannie had Barbara Eden in a bikini kind of thing, or a bare midriff. So, you know, there were some other things that were kind of more attractions to those. And this was also a little earlier, a little older. So maybe that's some of the reason that we didn't see too many of them, you know, in replays over the years. I don't remember seeing this much in replays. I'm sure it was, but I just don't remember it if it was. And I don't remember it coming back recently on any of on MeTV or anything. That's all I got. It's fair to middling. It was fun. I would say that's the best description of this episode. Fun. Inside BB.
I wouldn't disagree with you on that one. I think we're all kind of warming to it to about the same degree. Tony, NT5TM, your thoughts on characterization for My Favorite Martian from 1963 from KE5ICX. Go ahead.
Well, I have to thank Bill for mentioning that alarm clock gag. For such a short TV show, they spent a lot of screen time on that, and I loved that because that was me in college. I really would put alarm clocks in different places in the room. I was very, very, very much a night owl and didn't see what the sunlight stuff was for. It took me a while. It was funny. In camping, I didn't need an alarm clock at all, but being in town, it's like, yeah, I get to sleep, I guess. The characters, to me, yes, they were an awful lot of stereotypes. The one character note that I liked from this, because again, the Martian is what we call a Mary Sue. He can just stick his fickle finger of fate on anything and fix it. So it's all going to be saved by, is it actually funny how he does that or not? And the reporter in The Martian did seem to play well together. They had a certain humorous thing going that I think their characters did promise. You know, not to be Groucho and Harpo, but at least to be consistently mildly amusing. So I found that, you know, in a pilot, that was a positive thing. Not much to say, not deep, just, you know, some hope there for consistent amusement. I thought they played well together. NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. Next up is Jay, KG5VZW. Jay, your thoughts on characterization and the acting in My Favorite Martian?
This is KG5VZ2. I'm sorry. KG5VZW. I mean, I don't know what Ray did to make his character so likable. And I don't know that even how many parts it's into that than the pilot, but it's. I always liked the character from whatever I saw of the show. Just a little kind of almost a benign, I should take some thought to describe him. He's a little bit, oh gosh, if I had the emotional intelligence to describe it, just there's gremlin energy to him, but he's pretty more or less benevolent. So it's like watching what otherwise might be considered bad behavior work for the good of the whole situation or whatever was always a charm to the character, from what I recall. Honestly, can't say much about the reporter character, but yeah, I was kind of I was amused by how even this day jokes about setting multiple alarms or putting alarms in various places or whatnot. How even today the joke still applies. Other characters, I mean, some of it just seems right for the time that it was made. Not so sure how to describe them really. Obviously, there's a little bit of silliness with the military and the commander. I don't know the title of that particular official, but I mean, it did fit characters. It fit the stereotypes that were used back then. Other than that, I really don't think I have much else to say. So, and I'll hand it to the next person. KG5BDW.
All right, thank you, Jay. Next up is NV5F, Virginia. Your thoughts on characterization and the actors from KE5ICF.
Yeah, I enjoyed these actors. I remember some of them from other shows that I saw that had come out later, and so it was kind of fun, since I hadn't seen this show, to see familiar actors like earlier in their career. And I do agree with what Tony said, the kind of sort of odd couple vibe between Tim and Uncle Martin. And I like those I kind of like those plays on words where, out of nowhere he's got to figure out what to call this guy, and he just decides to call him Uncle Martin, and it's just kind of funny. I like those kind of things. And I liked his character. I liked Ray Walston he's a very prolific character actor that I of course saw for the first time in movies and stuff when I was growing up, and I liked him in the Star Trek shows that he was in. He was in Next Generation and Star Trek Voyager, and I enjoyed him in those, and so it was kind of fun to see him in this role, and he still had that kind of sardonic quality, but they just throw that comedy in of like him suddenly having these antennas that come up, out of his head, and so it's kind of dry and wry, and Bill Bixby is definitely the comic relief in this, doing all the physical comedy. And I remember my first memory of him is from The Incredible Hulk, and to see him do this kind of wacky sort of physical comedy is kind of fun and refreshing. And of course, all the military and government people were pretty stereotypical. Like Bill Byram says, this is a pilot, so it's not going to go much past scratching the surface of characters. And something I've noticed in any show, but especially sitcoms, they're throwing so much at you in a 30-minute pilot that they kind of make things about the characters. They've just got to figure out who these people are really quickly, and then you go on with the show over years, weeks and months and years, and the characters kind of change into what they kind of need them to be on an ongoing basis. So a really smart kind of prim character like the mom landlady might turn into eventually become more of a ditzy sort of foil kind of character. So yeah, I'll probably watch more of these because they're just fun, and it'll be fun to see how the characters develop and which ones become more interesting and have more depth to them. But I thought the relationship between the two main characters was funny and endearing and heartwarming, and had a promise of being pretty interesting. And Tom, you when you were talking about the producer, you used my fun fact about Sheldon Leonard. I was thinking the same thing you were saying about Big Bang Theory, so that's kind of funny that you brought that up, because that shows a good example of this. If you watch the pilot of that, and then within a couple of seasons, you can find discrepancies in the characters from the pilot version of that show in the first season to what they kind of ended up being. And Sheldon and Leonard are definitely they're definitely a quintessential odd couple. So it's that formula still works, and I thought this show was a lot of fun, and acting and characters were just light and just enough stereotype. And I like the thing where Uncle Martin could speak Italian because he knew that one guy was an Italian. It's just kind of just stuff like that. It's just funny. Okay, I'll be done. Turn it back over to Net in V5F.
Hi, thank you, Virginia. I'm sorry I rained on your parade. It's just when I see Sheldon Leonard, I automatically think of that and Big Bang, so I'm just getting senile that way. Okay, next up is Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, what'd you think about the characterization and the actors in My Favorite Martian from KE5ICX? All right, I have a suspicion she may have fallen asleep. Brenda works on Saturday. Oh, no, now she's back. I've got her on back channel. Brenda, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you think about characterizations from KE5ICX?
I'm sorry. This is my day to work, so this is, alarm goes off at 5:20. That was a long time ago. Sorry, I'm a little slow this evening. Characters. Well, they're just delightful. Bill Bixby is so much fun to watch. He's cute. He's a great actor. And Ray Walston is just perfect as the Martian. They almost overplay it some, but not so much that you wouldn't enjoy it. It's kind of like the stable of characters that every sitcom has to have. The foil and the buddy and the dingy neighbor. The neighbors are always dingy. And the girl interest, and and so on. But, you know, I guess that's what makes the world go round, is all these characters. They were well cast, I'll have to say that. They really were. So, you know, I think the glory days of sitcoms are over. What I see on TV today, I cannot watch. And I just wonder if they made one like this now, if it would go, or if it would fail. Be curious to know. But it's interesting that as dated as this is, that we all enjoyed it. Would we watch it if it were on every week on the TV? I don't know. Okay, I'm going to quit. WB50ZL, back to Nat.
All right, thank you, Brenda. You can go back to sleep for a while. I'll wake you up later. Next is Cruz, KI5KWG. Here's your opportunity to talk about characters and the acting from KE5ICX.
KI5KWG, I was just thinking, Brenda, you're going to hate me for this. I work Saturdays, too, and I work late, so I barely make it home for this. That means I have to set my alarm for the horrifying hour of 10 a.m. So I'm full of energy. Oh, characterization. Don't really have too much on this. Bill mentioned this at the very beginning about how likable the main characters were, is Ray Walston and Bill Bixby. And the only note I made is that the uncle persona so fit the characterization that Ray Walston did, and the relationships, and I don't know if they were lucky or if that was genius, but it really, really did seem to work throughout that series. And of course, I found out this week is how that came about, as him being called the uncle. And I'll point out also that Ray Walston was playing Ray Walston, I think, in this, because he is the exact same character in The Sting. And pretty much everything else I can remember seeing him in, the kindly uncle. That's what I've got, KI5KWG. Back to Net.
Okie doke, thank you, Cruz. And next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on characterization and, I don't know, the acting from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. I really don't have a lot to add because obviously, yeah, this is pretty simple. But I do think it was pretty well acted, especially for the time. As everybody else has already said, I agree 100% that these two main characters did play very well off each other, and obviously that's what made it work. And I won't give out any spoilers this week, but after watching the first couple episodes, you do start to see some transition from the pilot a little bit into probably how they settle into their characters. But yeah, it was, I think, very well played, and yeah, just not a whole lot to add here because it's just very simple. But I would say I think they did pack a lot in for 26 minutes, so credit to that. The days of not so many commercials must have been nice. Anyway, back to that, KB9SOK.
Okay, Sean, thank you for your comments. And we're down to the bottom. I'll go ahead and ask if there's any additional check-ins this evening. We are talking about the television series My Favorite Martian from 1963, the pilot episode. But if you want to talk about, or at least want to make your presence known and want to talk about My Favorite Martian, then here's your opportunity. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see My Favorite Martian?
Whiskey 5. Bacon, lettuce, tomato, W5BLT. Bill, yes, I did see the movie, or the show, W5BLT.
Well, Bill, we're glad glad you're here. We were flying the missing man formation. You're the guy. Welcome. What are your thoughts? You can also talk about the series itself and characterizations. We'll give you both of those to discuss. So what do you think from KE5ICX?
Okay, I don't have a lot to add. You know, everybody's pretty much covered it. I've been listening for a little bit. I had some projects I had to get done, and I didn't want to get caught in the middle of doing something and having to respond. So I've been listening, and I love this show. I don't know how I missed it. I knew about it, and you know, occasionally I think there'd be reruns and stuff, and so I've always heard about it. Never took the time to watch it until now, and actually watched a couple episodes. I was doing 11 Mile Walk today, and I just turned on and listened to them as I was walking. You know, the formula, the plot, it's pretty simple, and yes, we've seen it in other shows, but you know, it's always interesting for me. I think I've said this before. I had a history major and a microcomputer minor, which is kind of strange for the ended up computers, but I always like the history of looking back on these shows and then seeing what came after, and so when you guys were talking about the Third Rock and Mork and Mindy and these other shows that came after, and Alf, and you know, it's just neat to see how the timeline of TV shows and ideas kind of spawn other ideas and shows, and they're very likable, the characters, and I sometimes just enjoy shows like this because I can't always watch the sitcoms and comedies on TV. Maybe I'm getting too old, but I don't understand them. So this was a lot of fun, and yes, it's a very simple plot, but I think you know, obviously they don't have a lot of time in 22 minutes out of a half hour to get stuff done, or 25 minutes, so not a lot of time. But I like this month kind of just going down memory lane and watching some of these old shows. That's all I have. I don't know. I probably won't have anything to say on the third round, but just enjoying the net tonight. W5 BLT.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bill. And I'll acknowledge JJ as well, N5IMS. He's just there listening as he's lurking. Man is lurking. Let me see. He has something to say. Give me a second here. Oh, this is what he says. He says that as a ham radio operator now, it appears that Martin's antenna was UHF, and since there were two, one on each side of his head, it must have been directional. So I told him he was very bad for saying that, but I thought I'd mention it, so we get a chuckle out of him. And yeah, probably true. Now, my comments, I pretty much I agree with what everybody said, so I'm not going to retread. I will say this, yes, Ray Walston always played Ray Walston and everything he did, but he always did a great Ray Walston. As was mentioned earlier, he was in some other series. A favorite of mine, of course, was Star Trek Next Generation. He played Boothby, who was the groundskeeper at Starfleet Academy, and he reprised the role several times on Next Generation. I think it was like the 6th and 7th season, and then he also did it on Star Trek Voyager, a series that I didn't really watch much of, but he was there. He was also in L.A. Law, and he played Judge Henry Bone in Picket Fences, and he was so loved in that he made it a starring role later on. It was just a recurring role. It wasn't supposed to be in everything. He was also in Fast Times at Ridgemont High in 1982, and he's quite memorable in that character. And he was very pleased, too, and he said that he played Mr. Han, that he was no longer Mr. Martin, that younger people said there's Mr. Han when they saw him on the street. So he was very happy to get away from his Martian role because he was so well loved in that series. Now, I thought both of them really worked well together. You know, you got the O'Hara character played by Bill Bixby. He was kind of the slapstick guy, the fish out of water, the guy who always had crazy, extraordinary things happening to him, and then he'd be put into situations and on the hook, as Uncle Martin would say in this first episode. They pretty much telegraph what's going to happen from this point forward, that everything's going to happen to poor Tim O'Hara, and he's going to have to figure out a way to get out of it. So there's that, and I thought that was quite fun. The did see Neighbor Next Door, Lorelei Brown. She was fine. I thought that was good. And the gal, I don't have her name listed here, but at any rate, she was, they ghosted her shortly into the series because they were supposed to be kind of a couple, but as it turns out, if you want to have different romantic relationships because it's a weekly television series, you're not, you know, then you can't have that regular character filling his spot, and then all they do is go on dates together. You want to have crazy things happen, and Bill's a young cub reporter, and we want him to go out and see different people and be involved with that family and the people around them, around her, and that of course opens up more screen time and more opportunities to fill out a plot. So I don't know. I either way, I think it was okay. I'm trying to think what else. I guess that's enough. I think I've hit pretty much on everything. If you go and look at Ray Walston's career, it is full of a lot of things that he did through the years, mostly character acting, starting in 1967 and taking it all the way up to 2001, and his last appearance in Seventh Heaven as Sergeant Bullard Holmes, his final television appearance before he died, and it aired 3 weeks after his death. Okay, that's it from me on that. So let's see. We've got time. I'll go ahead and go down the list. If you've got something to say, anything you want to add to what you've already said or heard, or want to elaborate, you may do so. If you don't have anything, that's okay too. I'll just start at the top of the list and we'll go down. So Bill, N5BB, what do you think? You got anything on special effects or anything you want to add to your comments this evening from KE5ICF?
This is N5BB. Well, special effects were straightforward. He can go invisible and appear, which is obvious from just filming the scene without him in it, and then he's in it. That's the way they do that, and just splicing it together. And then his little antennas come up. I wonder if anybody knows. I'm assuming there was there a motor, or did he have something he would push with his hand, or was there some kind of umbilical cable that went off where some other gaffer, some other person on the set would push something to make those antennas go up or down? I'm curious about the antennae. And I guess that's about it in 5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. I think all they did was just have some sort of a prop thing that would be attached in such a way that it would look like it was part of his head. It was always a straight-on shot, if I remember correctly, because you wouldn't want to see the guy sitting there elevating the antennas. I don't know. Let's see. Next is Tony, NT5TM. Your final comments. Okay, I think he did say he was probably going to leave, so I think he's done exactly that. I'll go down the list. KG5BZWJ. Any final comments from you? special effects? Anything you've said that you would like to elaborate, or anybody else?
Yeah, this is KG5BZW. There's just one little thing about that particular episode. I could not. I have trouble believing that the flying saucer, as it was shown, I don't believe that was the original effect. However, I just really thought about, maybe I should actually look up trivia to see if, like in a re-release, they did like they did with the Star Trek episodes, and add a little bit of CGI or whatnot, just to, make, because everybody, when CGI was cheap, I should say cheap CGI was first available, everybody was so infused with it that they liked to add it to everything instead of, taking it and realizing that, hey, yes, we know some of the old special effects were kind of cheesy and kind of ugly and dumb looking, but we might keep them around for maybe nostalgic purposes or something. I have a feeling that's what happened there. The specular, it looked like a cheap CGI shot instead of, photography. There's just certain. I know you can have certain photographs where it actually looks like CGI from the 90s or whatnot, but I just don't believe that's the actual case. I would bet money on it. I would bet. I don't know. It's something that I would bet as a casino kind of thing, but other than that, that's all I got. The original effects, that was the only thing I really noticed. I like the special effects. Otherwise, the invisibility and whatnot. Well, I mean, that's some of it's just cheap stuff and whatnot. The antennas poking out and stuff was cool, and now floating things and whatnot. It made sense for the time. It looked like it did. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but that's all I got. KG5BZ2.
Okay, thank you, Jay. I can tell you this, and I mentioned a little earlier, but you might have missed it, but the version we watched was kind of a restored version. It's done by Doug Drexler, who did do special effects on Star Trek The Next Generation. He also did special effects on Battlestar Galactica. And I think he used this as sort of a vehicle, as a promotion on some of the things that he was doing. He's pretty much close to retirement now, so I'm not sure if he's going to keep going or not. He's this guy full of energy. But he also did, if you watched afterwards, there was a portfolio of things that he had done for BSG, and I forget, the future program in takes place in St. Louis and that. At any rate, I can't recall, but whatever the series was, relevant, something, I don't know. Anyway, if you watch that, it was really interesting on the special effects that he had done. I didn't realize how much he had done. Quite entertaining. Okay, enough from me. NV5F, Virginia, your final comments from KE5ICX.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add. I did notice when I saw the opening title sequence of the episode that it did look like it had been restored with modern graphics. It looked like it had that, kind of a classic feel, but just updated the special effects there. And, special effects in this are all practical. They're, they're kind of cheesy. It's fine. It's fun. And I honestly think those antennas are a miniature 1.2 gigahertz phased array. So that's all I have to say. Hope everybody has a good night. K5ICX NV5F.
Thank you, Virginia, and you as well. Always enjoy having you on the net. Well, everybody, for that matter. It's always fun doing this. Next up, Brenda, WB5OZL. Your parting comments for this evening.
This is WB5OZL. Well, yeah, I'm glad we did this movie. We've done so many that were dreary and depressing and scary, and to have a little bit of cotton candy, I thought was pretty good. So I appreciate this. That's all I'm going to say. It's late. WB5OZL.
We are racing through these. Next up is Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, your final thoughts on My Favorite Martian.
KI5KWG, I see Elvis is getting ready to leave the building. So all I really wanted to point out is, from my notes, is that so many of the special effects, which was important to this series, were trite. We've seen them all. I don't know if this was any firsts in here. The only original one was the antenna, and that seems to be what everybody focused upon. Kind of interesting in that. That's all I've got. KI5, KWG, back to net.
All right, thank you, Cruz. Thanks for your comments this evening. KB9SOK, Sean in Fort Worth. Your final comments.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I agree with what everybody said. Just pretty simple, practical effects. Nothing wrong with that. Obviously, the version we watched was cleaned up. I watched just a few minutes of the uncleaned up version, just for curiosity's sakes, and yes, he did a very nice job cleaning it up, because the original episode was a little rough looking, so he did a nice job there. You mentioned earlier the series that they did showing him restoring the spaceship. On that same platform, if you just do a search for My Favorite Martian, it pops up right at the top, and there's like 3 episodes that shows restoring it. And through it, I watched a little bit. I haven't watched all of it yet, but he does some play on the special effects even in his little series. So if you're looking for that, it's kind of entertaining. I haven't watched it all, so I'm not sure about the whole thing. But yep, just a fun little show this week. Thanks, KB9SOK.
All right, very good. Thank you, Sean, for your comments. I love the guy. He's really something. I've talked to him, chatted with him a few times on Facebook, and he is a super fan. He loves science fiction, and he's a kid at heart, and always will be. So who can't love somebody like that who enjoys a hobby and is able to make money out of doing this sort of thing and loves doing it? Okay, let's see. Last up is Bill, W5BLT. Bill may or may not be there. He said he may have been turning in. But Bill, if you're there, any final comments from you this evening from KE5ICX?
Yeah, Tom, I want to thank you and the group. I've alluded to this before, watching some shows with descriptive video for people who are blind. But that's not available on a lot of things, and so you guys are the descriptive video, and so my thanks to the whole group as well. It just makes this a lot of fun to go back and watch these shows. W5BLT.
Well, very good. Thank you, Bill. I didn't know we were helping out in that regard. That's pretty cool that we could do that. More attention to that, I guess. All right. Well, my final comments are basically what everybody else said. I enjoyed it. It was nice having something that was really kind of lightweight and enjoyable without a lot of thought to it, and which is pretty much television, the vast wasteland, I guess. But that's okay. I enjoyed it, and I had a lot of fun with it this evening. As far as special effects, if you look carefully, you can see the strings. They are there. I'm sorry we don't have levitation or zero-G yet, but maybe someday in the near future we will. Okay, I will tell you what next week's television thing is. It is Out of This World, Little Lost Robot. And this is on ABC Weekend Television, but not the ABC you're thinking of. This is the British version. And this is the only episode of a science fiction anthology series. I think it's either Isaac Asimov's story or a Lester Del Rey story. I can't remember which. I have to go back and look. This is available on archive.org. Of course, I will send you the link so that you can find it. I think it'll be rather interesting and sort of a British take on television science fiction from 1962. So I'm going to say 7-3 to everybody. Thank you for all of your contributions this evening. It was a lot of fun. And who knew? Here we go again. This is a 30-minute program, or 25 minutes long, and we managed to go 90 minutes discussing. I always find it amazing we're able to do that, but somehow or another we manage it. So see you all next week, and enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your Thanksgiving on Thursday, and I wish you all the best. This is KE5ICX, I'm clear, and this net is done. Bye-bye and bye-bye.
KE5ICX, N5BB. I got two quick things, Tom.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
First, I'd forgotten about this till I just noticed it. There was a 1999 film, science fiction comedy film, My Favorite Martian. And it starred Christopher Lloyd, Jeff Daniels, Daryl Hannah, Elizabeth Hurley, and Ray Walston, who replays Martin. I wonder if that's available for us to look at. It got bad ratings, but I think it just might be interesting for our group to see that.
Elvis has left the building.
Oh, Bill, yeah. I have to go back and look. Since we were doing the TV gig, I thought, well, we'll stick with TV. But yeah, I thought about that, and I'll go look and see if it's available. I've got the notes up here to check it out and see if it's available for, free for streaming. A lot of times, that's relatively old, so it's possible that it would be. We'll just have to find it. And I'll put it on the to-do list if nothing else. How about that?
Sure. It's 23 years old. Tom, we're getting old. It's just hard for me to imagine that it's nearly a quarter of a century old. It was made in 1999. And the second thing is ABC, unless there's something really unusual, that's not British. That's the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, N5BB.
Oh, that's very interesting. You could be right. I've seen the ABC name on stuff, but it goes back to the 60s and 70s, so you could very well be right. Okay, well, we'll call it as we see them. All right, Bill. Thanks. And we'll catch you again next time. Probably tomorrow on Traffic Net. 7-3 to you, KE5ICX.
Okay, and I apologize. I didn't write it down. Could you just say out loud the name of the movie one more time before next week? N5BB.
Yes, it's called Out of This World TV, 1962. It's on archive.org. It's episode 3. It's the only remaining episode from that anthology series, which only lasts one season. So that's it. But I will send out the email with the links and all that as well for probably tomorrow morning.
Okay. Well, the Wikipedia thing, Out of This World, it says it's an American TV. Oh, no. swim it. This is not the thing from 1987. This is something much older. Let's see if I can find it here. Here we go. TV series 1962. So here the thing is. Okay, very good. Oh, it's got Boris Karloff in it as the host. Whoa, wow. And Jane Asher. Weird. See you next week in 5BB.
W5FT.
All right, catch you later. KE5ICX, I'm clear again.
I think it might be British.